So, today we're going to dive into a pretty sharp take on modern love. It comes from the YouTube channel Ritu Ki Diary, and it asks some really tough questions about how we connect with each other in this digital world. Let's just jump right in. And really, this whole critique hangs on one big question. Is the love we see today the real deal, or is it just for show? That's the lens we're going to be looking through today.
Okay, so where does this all start? Well, it kicks off with what the source calls a generational habit. It's this crazy rush to say, I love you. And the idea is that it's often more about what we think we should be doing, not what we actually feel.
And the language used here is really telling. It says young people are bursting out with love. Like they can't even hold it in. It points to this incredible speed and intensity that seems to define so many relationships these days.
And this really gets to the heart of it. The argument is that these quick, I love yous are kind of hollow. They're words that are supposed to have real weight, right? They're meant to carry responsibility. But instead, they're thrown around lightly, without a real sense of what they mean.
So, this idea of hollowness, it doesn't just stop with words, it gets bigger. The critique moves on to our actions, suggesting that a lot of what we do in life is more about performing for others than it is about having a genuine purpose. To really make this point land, the source uses a perfect everyday example, going to the gym. But, this isn't about fitness. It's about digging into why we do what we do.
So what's really driving you to go? Is it for the show, to post a gym selfie, to impress people, to look a certain way? Or is it for a real purpose, like your actual health, or for self-discipline, or maybe it's just a lifestyle you're genuinely into? The argument here is that there's a world of difference between the two.
And here's the kicker. This has nothing to do with the gym. The gym is just a metaphor. This whole mindset of putting appearances before substance, of performing for an audience, is seen as this huge cultural trend that seeps into every part of our lives, especially our relationships.
And of course, you can't talk about performance and appearances today without bringing in the big one, social media. Which brings us to the digital heart of this whole critique. There's this one line in the video that it perfectly captures this idea of how unstable affection can be in the digital age. It's powerful, right? The idea that our connections can be swapped out as easily as a profile pic?
I mean, think about it. If you connect with someone based on something like a cute DP, a cute display picture, the argument is that there's no real foundation there. So what happens when that person changes, or the picture changes? Well, that so-called love just vanishes right along with it.
Okay, so after tearing down what modern love often looks like, the critique shifts gears and starts to build up a vision of what it should be. So, what's the alternative here?
All right, let's just quickly run through what's being called out as superficial. The source says it's not the real deal if it's based only on pictures, if it's all about appearances, if it's full of words that don't mean anything, or if it just changes from person to person without a second thought.
So what is real love then? Well, according to this perspective, it's about going deeper than the screen. It's about knowing someone's reality, who they are authentically, the person they are when the cameras are off and nobody's watching.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important piece of the puzzle. If being authentic is the starting point, what's the end goal? It all comes down to one single, powerful idea.
Loyalty? That's it. That's the key. It's described as this deep connection that's become incredibly rare and really, really hard to find in the world we live in today. It's painted as the ultimate prize.
So the whole idea is that while looks fade and display pictures change and words can be empty, loyalty is the one thing that actually lasts. It's the anchor in this whole sea of temporary connections.
And that brings us full circle. This whole critique leaves us with a question to ask ourselves. In a world where so much feels temporary, where everything is curated, is a loyal, authentic bond the only thing that's truly real? Definitely something to think about.